Welcome back to Why Blank Lost for Survivor after a few months off of this version of the podcast as we kick things off with our Survivor 45 preview. I'm David Bloomberg, and I'm excited to be joined once again by my amazing Survivor co-host, Jessica Lewis.
Well, thank you so much for that introduction. And hello again, everyone. It's been quite some time since I've had an opportunity to chat with you all and to chat with David. So this is very exciting news. We have a new season of Survivor starting, and we get to pick people apart now, but in the most pleasant and kind way possible, I assure you.
Usually. I can't guarantee always, going
I know,
forward.
I know.
But with this crew, this cast, it looks like, that'll mostly be the case.
I agree.
Some of the Big Brother people, and actually, those people who are watching Big Brother know, of course, that I've been doing Why Blank Lost with Ovi Kabir for that show. So I will be pulling double duty for the next couple months while both shows overlap. Yay.
Hey, listen, you're retired. This is what you're doing now, okay?
It is. You're right. But
yeah, you're just a regular podcaster now. That's it. Don't you have a t-shirt that says that?
I do.
See?
But I also have a t-shirt that kind of shows where I am at right now. I'm as confused as a goat on AstroTurf.
Well, I must say, if we're displaying t-shirts, I was gonna wait because my microphone is blocking mine. However, this t-shirt, based upon what I've learned about a particular person in this cast, seemed very appropriate. So I'll move my microphone over, and it says, "Maybe swearing will help."
Ah, yes, I know exactly who you're talking about. But we won't spoil that. We'll no. And yes, I have often found it does help.
Same.
Yeah. For the past few seasons, we've split up our Survivor preview podcasts into 3 parts, one for each tribe. This season, we have decided to combine it all into one since there's so much going on the podcast network right now. And I'm confused. I've got Big Brother in my head. I've got Survivor in my head. I'm not used to all of this. So for those who have listened or watched before, welcome back. To bring new listeners or viewers up to speed, once the season starts, each week we will discuss what the voted out player did right and wrong in terms of rules that I originally wrote way back after the first Survivor season and have been updating ever since. We look at each episode and also back to everything that has led up to it. And we don't just rely on what's on TV, but also dive into anything available that's not a spoiler, including interviews, secret scenes, social media, you name it. Everything. For our preview, there's a lot less everything.
Yes. Thank goodness.
Yeah, well, kind of, yeah. We will talk briefly about each of the players, but we aren't going to go over most details of their bios and interviews because we know that there are already other podcasts that have done that. Instead, we're going to focus as much as possible on how we think they'll do in the game and specifically with the rules based on the things they've said. And then at the end, we'll each pick who we think will do the best and the worst. Now,
and we all know I'm so good at that.
Yes, but someone on this podcast.
Here we go. Here we go. Oh, I don't know. Maybe the other person on this podcast.
Oh, okay. That's right. There's only 2 of us. Yeah, I guess it was me. So
incredible. No pressure, right?
Right. None at all to, duplicate my feat. But hey, gotta try.
Yes.
So let's go ahead and jump right into getting to know the players. We're going to go through all of them in alphabetical order by name. We're not breaking it up into tribes, though we will mention the tribes. Again, like I said, we're not going to go into all the little details like their pet peeves for most of them, but we'll focus on things we believe will be important to the game and their ability to follow the rules. Now, listeners, and especially any players tuning in, should remember we're basing almost everything we'll be discussing off of, like we just indicated, a relatively small amount of information. Yes. So if we say it sounds like someone's game won't work out for them, well, we obviously have nearly 100% success rate. But there's always the off chance that we could be wrong. So keep that in mind. Small chance.
Small chance.
So let us start with Austin. And I'm going to help us out here with some visual aids for those on the video.
Which everyone will love and appreciate, because remember when I just like held their picture up that one?
Yes, yes.
This is great.
Yeah. So this is Austin. He is on the Reba tribe. He's 26, an MBA student from California, currently in Chicago. Now, being a current Chicago resident, even just for college, automatically earns some bonus points from me.
Interesting. Okay.
As does the fact that he was the first one I noticed was already following me on Twitter. I'm not saying he was necessarily the first, but he was the first I noticed.
Interesting as well.
And then also the fact that he had mild Tourette's, since that has impacted some of my family members. So, there's a lot going on with Austin here.
Oh, there is so much going on with Austin. I don't know how much we want to jump in right away, but I think Austin, just the initial vibe and everything he's giving, I feel huge character vibes coming from him, and just something that the people watching the show are going to just love to see on their television screens.
Yeah, I agree. He, as far as his game, he said he thinks the base of the game really revolves around connections with other people, one-on-one relationships, and using that to make your threat level a little less noticeable to other people. Something else that will reduce his threat level is if people assume he's like a Wu or an Ozzy and is physical but not strategic, which he wants to hide a bit. So he's aware of the sixth rule, of course, and the sixth rule even has Wu in the picture. Now, one thing he's nervous about is getting connected with people and having to vote them out. He's not sure that he could really prepare for that. He knows he just has to, in his words, suck it up when the time comes. He hopes he can, and I hope he can too, because you got to follow the fourth rule, Austin.
Yeah, and I really do. I feel kind of a mixed response to him, because he does come across as a very likable person, and he wants to be. And it sounds like his goal is to really formulate as many bonds and relationships as he can, which is obviously a fantastic goal to have. You want to be able to create those social relationships, because that's only going to help you get farther. But you have to also know when to cut these people. And if he struggles with that, as we've seen with some of the people that he's trying to emulate a little bit, right? The social bonds became the difficult component of their game, because they didn't have that cutthroat component and they weren't willing to take that next step. I don't see him as necessarily wanting to take charge to make those decisions, because he's going to struggle so much with them emotionally. But I also see him making a lot of bonds and connections with people. So I don't think he would be targeted, because he's just going to be able to connect with so many people on so many different levels. You just look at where he's come from and what he's been through. I really see him having the ability to connect with a significant number of people on his tribe and just in the cast as a whole.
Yeah, I agree. In the pregame, he already seemed to like. Sorry if you can hear, by the way, people. I meant to say I'm a bit sick here, so if you hear some sniffling and stuff, I'll try to mute. But hey, sometimes it happens. He in the pregame seemed to like Brandon, but worried about Caleb, because Caleb always seemed to be selling himself. Keep that in mind as we go forward. But he won't be on the starting tribe of either of them.
Right.
All right. Right now, Austin is in the lead as my winner pick. I mean, he was.
It's incredible.
Yeah. All right. The next one we can move to is Brando, and he is in the Bello tribe.
Bello tribe.
He is 23, a software developer from California, currently in Seattle. When he was 16, he weighed almost 200 pounds, and he started running 3 miles every night. And he said he gained confidence and lost 50 pounds. And he identifies the most with someone you might have heard of, a man named David Wright.
So strange. I do have a lot of familiarity with that person. And I think it's really sweet that David was such an inspiration to him. And I know that this has already been mentioned by Rob, but I think that I think David would appreciate knowing that he had such a huge impact on someone's life in such a life-changing way, not just Survivor-related, actual life-changing way. So nice job, David Wright.
Yes, everybody tweet at David Wright and say, nice job, David Wright. He won't know what's going on, but just say it. I mean, he might.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
Now, Brando wants to play like Yao Man, strategic, innovative, and friendly, but without giving away the truck. He said that if Yule and Cochran had a child, that would be Brando. Yule's calm, cool collectedness plus smart and always thinking. Cochran's a little bit more goofy, but still on the smarter side. So he thinks he'll be underestimated because he's young, but so much of this cast is young. I'm not sure that's true.
Well, but here's where the young component I think is really going to potentially kick in. Is for whatever reason I was looking at the distribution of the age ages of the various people in the tribe, and
Look
he
at you
is
putting things into statistics and stuff.
I know, right? Like I know math, right? So, but Brando is the youngest out of all of the players, but he is also, I think, just looking at the Bello tribe makeup, he's the youngest, but then there's also that seems to be like the older tribe, if that makes sense. Just kind of looking at the designation of the individuals and their ages, and so I don't know if it's going to negatively impact him because not only is he young, he also appears young. Yeah, he's not
Sorry, I'm
someone
looking
who.
down at my tribe picture on my phone here. Couldn't
Oh,
couldn't
that's
have it.
yeah.
I ran out of screens to put stuff on.
Yeah, so I hope that doesn't necessarily work against him because we've seen this before where we've had very young players who they just appear older and then they lie about their age. And not that he needs to lie about his age, but he seems very well educated and he's obviously, done very well for himself. There's nothing wrong with being 23 years old, but I just don't know if it is going to have an impact on him because he just appears younger, that maybe people would treat him differently just because of appearances alone.
Yeah. Now maybe he can, kind of balance that out because he's looking for an ally who's going to fill the spots he doesn't. He's smaller and strategic, so he's hoping to find a larger, more physical player or someone who might have more experience in their day-to-day lives. I was going to say that part might be more difficult to spot, but then I think of the young old thing, and okay, there is a way to spot someone who has more experience.
Yes, and I do think again, if you go back to look at the tribe makeup where he sits, there's a very distinct chance that he's going to find that immediately, and I think he's already eyeballing someone on his tribe for just that purpose. So at least he is very aware of himself, which sometimes people are not self-aware when they go out into the island and don't understand. I know, crazy that I would say that, right? But I think he is very aware of that, and so if he uses that to his benefit and tries to form a bond based upon that, and there's like a father-son kind of relationship that's created, I think that could certainly benefit him.
Yes. Now, one interesting thing is that Brando loves lying to his friends for no reason. So
Yeah,
that's
which
good.
I thought was strange.
Yes, but it's good for rule one. I'm hoping also that it explains why he said that his Survivor hot take is that the edge of extinction is a fun twist.
I knew this was coming.
Because that's the only reason I can think of that he would say that, is he was lying to us for fun.
Well, was he the one that actually differentiated just
No,
to say that?
that's the other Brandon.
That's the other one.
Yes.
That it was just he was hoping that he has a chance to come back. Okay. I just want to. You're very on this.
Yes.
You were immediately. You knew immediately what I was
Yes.
talking about. Like, no, that is not what he did.
Yes, this Brando. Unfortunately, Brando, I'm sorry, but by saying that, you've eliminated yourself as my potential winner pick.
There we are.
But if it also eliminates you from being Jessica's winner pick, then you're welcome.
You know what? And you're welcome, because he's not my winner pick. This is the concern I had in having to choose someone. I have damned them to not win the game.
Yes.
So I apologize.
Brando did try to get back into our good graces by saying things that we might have said on previous podcasts about beware advantages. Like if he sees one, he's going to try to get someone else to pick it up. So he has the knowledge without the disadvantage part. So that's good.
Yeah, I did really appreciate that approach. And I find it fascinating that players are now having to think along these lines. As much as we say there's too many advantages and too many things being tossed into the game, it is changing the way that players have to consider these items. And I do like this idea of like kind of forcing someone in the direction of where you've seen one, so they find it and then you're present. I was appreciating that kind of that strategy and that gameplay. So I can get behind that a lot. I like that.
Yeah. Now, just as Austin did, Brando also noticed Caleb trying to pal up with everyone in the pregame. But again, not on the same starting tribe, so that won't really matter.
Right.
All right. Now we can move on to Brandon, who is on the Lulu tribe. He's a little older. He's 26. He's a content producer from New Jersey.
Older. It's 26.
Yeah, I know. A little older than Brando. I mean, right. I know, 26, otherwise known as, my son's age. He is very active in the Survivor community, to the point that he said Survivor is his favorite thing in the world. He is a writer who thinks that will help him, and he wants to play like other Survivor writers. He acknowledges that he's anxious in his daily life and will be looking for comfort in an ally. Now, that part worries me a little bit, because allies are there to play their own games, and it's easy to take advantage of someone who is looking for comfort from you.
Yes, but I feel like right now, just listening to the interviews with the current cast, he seems to be like a theme that people are discussing, I feel like he was one that everyone was kind of going back to, where I like him. I'm getting a good vibe from him. I feel like I want to work with him. So it's interesting that he's already kind of formulating some type of a bond with people without even having met them. So I'm curious to see how that's going to actually play out with these individuals, because if they've already decided they like him now, then he's already going to be on good footing once he gets there. And so his idea of wanting to create that type of relationship, I think, becomes easier, because they already have kind of made up in their minds, I like him. Yes. So the likelihood of trusting him more when they actually start talking to him. And I think it will be supported by once they do, because when you listen to him talk, he is very excited. He loves this game, and he just comes across as incredibly likable. So it's just going to tell them in their minds, everything I thought about him is true. And so I think it's going to be very easy for him to do that.
Yeah. I mean, you said, we talked about him loving this game. He said he started watching when he was 11 with Gabon, and has been applying since before he was eligible. He's practiced fire making, swimming, analyzed all the challenges to see what he can and can't do. And he's going to try to model his game off of some guy named Rob Sesternino. I'm not sure I've heard of him.
I'm maybe. I mean, yeah, I think so. I think I might have become familiar with that person.
Yeah. But he said he'll work hard at camp like Rob did in his season, and not give anyone a reason to see him as a target. He'll do what everyone tells him to do, be everybody's friend, be a team player for the first part of the game. It's good that he emphasized that, or at least said that part. I'm reading emphasis into it anyway. But because we know, Survivor is not actually a team game, but he's going to use that to move forward.
Yes.
He also wants to base that team off of the Breakfast Club.
I love this so much. This is great.
Yes, for younger listeners and viewers, the Breakfast Club was a movie. And how long ago was this movie? Well, it was filmed in a high school in my district that had recently closed. Okay, either I think it was. I'd have to double check the dates, either while I was in high school or shortly after. So it's been a minute.
Was it like 1989, 1987?
Yeah. So like I said, right shortly after I was out of high school.
Yeah.
And it's about a group of very different people all getting stuck in detention and becoming friends. Spoiler alert. So he wants to get people who wouldn't normally be associated with each other.
You have the wrong picture up.
Oh, I never moved the picture. Sorry.
Oh, see, we've confused everyone.
Wait a minute. How did Bruce get in there? Oh, this is so confusing. There we go.
There we are. I just realized we have the completely wrong photo.
Sorry. Well, yeah, I just never switched from Brando. So I'm sure people were, yelling at their screens, but I couldn't hear them. But I did hear you. So thank you. Sorry about that, everyone. All right. So when you start saying, hey, I'm like, no, I summarized the Breakfast Club accurately. What are you talking about?
You did a great job. I'm
No,
just
thank
sitting
you.
here getting caught up, I think, with the word one of the words that was used in the movie was it dweeb? Because I feel like somebody actually
Probably.
used that term to describe, like,
Mhm.
some of the people. So the connections are just across the board here with
Yes.
various players.
Yes. Now, looking at his tribe, everyone is, rather unique looking. So it could be, sometimes people come in and we try to predict who they're going to align with. It could be any
Mm.
of them in his tribe, really.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that Brandon's going to be in a very comfortable spot in his group. And I think it was Hannah, if I'm remembering correctly, who was one of the ones, and it might also have been Emily. I think it was Emily and Hannah that were both commenting on who I believe to be Brandon, that they were watching pregame, and they're both going to be on a tribe with him. So I
Hmm.
feel like the connections are already started for him. So I do feel like that he's likely to be in a good place when the game kicks off, and his knowledge of the game can certainly be a
Hmm.
detriment at times because you're overthinking.
Well, yeah.
But
Yeah, I
I
don't
but
think the
I
knowledge can be a detriment. It's what you do with the knowledge.
Well, and
If
that's what
you,
that was the
yeah.
distinction I was going to make, is that you can come in as a super fan and have all of this knowledge, and it all depends on how you present yourself with that basis of knowledge. And we've seen players do exceptionally well with it. And I know that he's interacted with Adam Klein, and Adam Klein is
Hmm.
someone who said, I was a super duper fan, and Adam managed to walk that line very well when he played. And I feel like if Brandon can do that, then all of that work that he's put into it will certainly benefit him in the
Yeah.
game.
Yeah. Now, you were talking about pregame stuff and what people saw of him. He also noticed Caleb going around and smiling at everyone. Uh,
Caleb,
yeah,
listen, there's
but
some stuff there.
the thing is, while the first two people we mentioned saw it a bit negatively, he saw it positively and encouraged people in the RHAP draft to pick him.
Yes.
Um,
And look who's on his tribe.
exactly, exactly. So I don't know that I will still pick him in the draft. I won't say that Caleb, but yeah, I do think that that Brandon will definitely try to work with him since
Mm,
he has a positive view of him going in.
yeah.
Now, much like Brando, if Brandon finds a beware advantage, he'll similarly get someone else to come near and find it so that he can have the information without the pain. So we have another
Mm-hmm.
Rule 7 success there. Um, and now, also like Brando, this is the part where you had mentioned he spoke positively about Edge of Extinction. And I was
Yes,
getting ready
he
to cross him
did.
off my list, but then he clarified he was talking about the season, not the twist. Now,
Yes.
personally, people who have been watching us for a while may be familiar with our opinion on this. If not, there are a couple of older podcasts we can refer you to. But I think the twist ruins the season, but I can certainly understand enjoying some of the players that were on that season, so I will let it pass.
There. So you get a pass, Brandon. And
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you a pass too because sorry, my dog decided to join me. I will give you a pass too because yes, it was not about the players, it was about the twist. So
Yes,
that's
yes,
that's the issue we have with that.
right. Now, lots of people in the community know Brandon and sing his praises. I am sure he will be the winner pick of many of them.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So we will see. All right. Next up is Bruce, which we knew because I accidentally clicked to him before. And by the way, thanks to Parade for these pictures. They're the only ones who did it in alphabetical order. So good
Oh,
job,
thank you,
guys.
Parade. Nice job.
Yes. Um, now, Bruce is on the Bellow tribe. He is, well, we know who he is. Let's face it. We talked about him last time.
We did.
He's a 47-year-old insurance agent from Rhode Island. He is the second oldest player this season. And of course, the only second time player, sort of. When I saw that he was coming back after what Jeff had said on his podcast and what Bruce had said in his interviews, about how he had an open invitation to return, I was
Mm.
sure that both of them were lying to us and it had already been planned. But he said in his pregame interviews here, no, he didn't know anything about it until after that. And then things just moved quickly and he jumped at the
Mm.
chance. So good for him.
Yeah, I think he's experiencing what I think a lot of survivors would hope if they go out early in the game. Obviously, you don't ever want to go out in the manner in which he did.
Mm.
So the fact that they saw something in him, Jeff saw something in him and wanted to bring him back, because we've had other players medically evacuated right off the, first
Mm-hmm.
3 days in, 2 days in, and they don't get the same invite. So clearly there was something here, and I think we've seen it as well. We talked about Bruce previously and how we anticipated his gameplay to be. We were a little concerned he might present as a little too quiet and reserved, but I think that that is going to work to his benefit now, because people have seen parts of Bruce that the other cast, when
Mm-hmm.
you don't know, but this cast has some familiarity with him, and he seems to be someone that a lot of the cast seems to be mentioning
Mm-hmm.
and having an interest in working with. So I think that that return for him will certainly benefit him, because people already know stuff about him. And
Right.
that's what you want. You want to know stuff about the
You want to
person that
go
you're
good
potentially
stuff.
aligning
Yes.
with. Good stuff, right?
See,
Exactly.
I don't think being quiet is going to be an issue for him, because he said he might have been like the dad last time, but this time he's going to be the drunk, crazy uncle.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, we've seen since the previews him yelling, "Let's go!" And,
Mm-hmm.
everybody's like, "Be careful!" And he's like jumping off the boat, and it's like, but I'm sure he's playing. You know how Jeff Probst always says, "Play Survivor your first time like it's your second time."
Mm.
Bruce is playing like it is his second time,
Yes, he is. Yes,
and
he is.
I do notice he is wearing a looser shirt. So hopefully that won't, make him unable to duck his head like last time.
Oh
Um,
gosh.
Now, uh, he did say he knows he has to play the game in line with Rule 4. It doesn't matter if you like someone or not, you have to work with them. And of course, in his first pregame press answers, he said that he would lie to people, which always a plus.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that Bruce also noticed Caleb, because he referred to, more generally, people who were smiling too much or wanting to make a lot of eye contact, and that's how other
Mm.
people have described Caleb. But once again, he's on a different tribe. I'm definitely rooting for Bruce.
Yes.
I'm not sure how he'll do with this younger crowd, but however far he goes, I hope he has a ton of fun doing it.
Yeah, and that's the concern again, is looking at the age of this
Mm-hmm.
tribe. At least it is a little more full. We have 23 up to 47, but you have 26, 35, 30, and 31. So there's a good range there. But this is Bruce is someone that Brando might gravitate towards for
Mm-hmm.
that father-son relationship. And the one thing that I can say about Bruce that I think is going to be very good for him is he did express a desire to want to listen, as opposed to necessarily just talking. And that's obviously a great skill set to bring into a game like this, is you have to pay
Mm-hmm.
attention. And that's what he's doing. He's definitely already paying attention, and he already knows what he needs to do in those first moments when you're getting to know people. I know that it was a very brief stint for him. It was 12 hours, but you
Well,
can
it was
still
12
learn a
hours
lot.
and he was concussed. So,
That's
yeah,
yes, that's what I mean. So
yeah.
12 out, but at least he was able to determine
Mm-hmm.
what he needed to do immediately, because right off the boat, when you're starting and here's the game, this is all being thrust upon you, those moments can be so crucial, and he's had that experience, he's had that excitement, he knows what that feels like.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm hoping that he takes that and utilizes it in the game that he now already has some familiarity with when he's playing it a second time.
Yeah. All right. Well, we can move on to D. And I think that's D. Let me make sure. Yes, that is D. Okay. Sorry, peeps. This is going crazy here. There we go. All right. People who are listening are like, what is he sorry about? I was having some scrolling issues there. She is 26, an entrepreneur with a backpack company, originally from Cuba, now in Miami. She thinks she'll play like Tony, but she also values an ally who will stick to their word, and seems to suggest she would do the same, which isn't very Tony-like.
Mm-hmm.
She started watching in 2020 and then binged and became a super fan. She does not plan on telling people about her sales experience, because we all know about those evil salespeople.
Right. It went from lawyers being the terrible ones to play with to now it's salespeople,
And
apparently.
there are a ton of lawyers on this cast
There
too.
really are. Mm-hmm.
Um, So she prepared by learning to make fire and researching on RHAP. So hello, Dee, if you're listening.
Hello, Dee.
Now, Dee understands that you don't get far in the game by yourself and you need alliance partners, also known as Rule 1. I already mentioned that she wants someone who stays true to their word, but also someone she can read who isn't erratic. So someone not like Tony as an ally. I wish her all the best with that.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say she didn't have a great pregame impression of Drew, saying that he didn't make eye contact with anyone, and they'll be on the same starting tribe, so that should be interesting.
Yeah, I am curious how she is going to fit into this group. I can see her and Austin certainly getting along very well. I'm just hoping that she is able to kind of maintain any idea of wanting to control the tribe, because she is her background and everything she's been able to do is so impressive. She's clearly got leadership skills, and she clearly she knows how to run a company. She created something, and she is in sales, but she is not just in sales. She like created a product that she's selling. So it's a whole different level. And so I'm just hoping that she can kind of keep that in check, just because if she's able to formulate those relationships based upon her ability to interact with people through that sales background, but then also know, like, I know how to run things and I know how to make it work for me, that'll be a great combination. So I'm hoping that she's able to make it a smooth transition into the game and not necessarily like try to take over right away.
Yeah. Now, remember how I said hello to Dee if she's listening? She may want to stop now or fast forward a little, because I wasn't thrilled with what she said about going for idols and advantages, specifically the part about how you have to take risks in Survivor, whether it's in the beginning or at the end. We often talk about that, and, taking unnecessary risks, especially in the beginning, can turn out bad.
I do think it's interesting that listening to so many of the players in the pregame interviews it was like stark contrast. They were either like all in or no. It was very interesting. And I think that Brando might have been the only one that kind of found that middle ground where, like, I want to know where it is, but I want to make somebody else do it. But she's not the only one that was like, I'm going for it.
Yeah.
Bruce said the same thing. Bruce was like, I'm raising my hand. I'm going for it. So I think that there's a lot of players that are going to be taking that same type of approach. So it might not be that bad, but it is a scary prospect, just with the way that all of the advantages exist, and they take away your vote. That's it. You're 6-person tribe. You lost your vote. That's huge. Yeah. That's huge.
Yep. All right, we can move on to Drew, who we just heard about from Dee, and they're on the same tribe, Reba. He is 23, a grad student from Michigan, and now in Philadelphia. During the pandemic, he worked at a call center, which means he said he had to make a connection in the first 10 seconds or he was out of luck. Sorry if I ever hung up on you.
Listen, Drew, if you had called me, I would have stayed on the phone, just because you have such an incredible voice. I would have definitely had a conversation with you.
Yeah, I'd have hung up on you anyway. But he thinks that this call center background will help because he also went to an Ivy League school, so he can maneuver between worlds. I have to admit, I'm not fully convinced of that, but we'll see. He also said he'll lean into his quirks like Penner and play like Ryan Ulrich.
Yeah, I have some concerns for Drew. I do. I mean, I think that he presents in a particular fashion. I mean, and he's aware of that, as people are going to make assumptions about him just kind of being like super smart, and he clearly is super smart. And there's nothing wrong with that, but we all know how that can be perceived in the game of Survivor. But he just has such a way of kind of, when he speaks, it was interesting because I would be listening to, I think I was listening to his interviews before I looked at him. And then I was like, whoa, this doesn't seem to, like, it just doesn't seem to jive. So like, he even described himself as like a Napoleon Dynamite looking type person. And then you hear him speak and it's kind of takes you aback. So I'm very intrigued to see how people will finally respond to him when they start talking to him and when they start communicating with him. Very intrigued.
Yeah. And, I think part of that intrigue is he said that his schoolwork involves a lot of rigorous, logical work. And he thinks that kind of analytical framework, which he called schematic cognition, is something that a lot of people might not have grasped, and it could help him out in Survivor. I don't even know what that means, but I'm always in favor of logic and thinking. So
absolutely.
He does think people will quickly figure out he's a strategic threat, but he doesn't plan to play it down in hopes that they'll want to work with him, not against him.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's dangerous. That is walking a fine line there.
Yeah.
Especially since he also worries that people might think he's slimy, but he wants to value loyalty, at least to his core group. Again, he's got all these things. It's like, I don't know how they're all going to work together, kind of like you said.
Yeah, he's kind of a contradiction, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm looking at the people that he's going to be on the tribe with, trying to determine who he's necessarily going to connect with. And maybe there could be a Julie connection there, just because she's also, I mean, she's an attorney, but I feel like he presents older, so perhaps, that connection could also formulate into something. This one, I'm definitely struggling here just to see where he's necessarily going to fit. I think some of the relationships on this tribe are more easily expected, whereas he is someone who I wasn't expecting all of what came with Drew. So I'm sure the people on his tribe will probably be doing the same thing when they're actually getting to meet him.
Yeah, he said he wants to work with Bruce and Austin is indeed on his tribe. Now, interestingly, at least to me, Drew referenced the big moves era in the 30s and now the little moves era in the 40s. Now, here's the thing, Drew, there actually never was a big moves era except in Jeff's head, and he still thinks it's here. But, don't worry about that. At least he recognizes little moves now. So
yes.
That's good.
We appreciate that about you, Drew. Thank you.
Yeah, we won't nitpick the other stuff.
No.
Yet. We might later. I can't guarantee anything.
Well, he should definitely do like voiceover work if this Survivor thing doesn't work out for him. Just saying.
Okay. All right. We can move on to Emily. I really want to yell it like Bryce, but I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to take Bryce's thing. She is 28. She's on Lulu, from Texas, now in Maryland. She's an investment analyst, and she's been told her personality is extremely similar to Cass, which should be fun. But she plans to manage her game like she manages investments. And she noted that investors, especially the not good ones, tend to let their emotions get in the way of their decisions. But the type she does is buy and hold, so she knows better. And similarly, she'll follow the fourth rule and put those emotions aside here so she can also follow Appendix A and keep her end goal in mind. So, she hit a rule and an appendix in one quote. That's pretty good.
Look at her. She's just winning points with you, I'm sure.
I know. And just to be clear, I'm assigning the rule. She didn't actually quote the rule and appendix, just in case anyone's like, I didn't see that in there. Yeah, that was me.
She is definitely into the investing thing. I spent some time on her Instagram, and it's rather amusing with the images that she posts that are really just all about investing in a comical sort of way. But yes.
Yeah. Now, she said she had a crisis one day and was like, you know what I should do? I should apply for Survivor. Now, I'm not sure an early life crisis is the best reason to apply, but hey, she's been watching her whole life, though she said she's not the level of super fan to say build 3D puzzles. On the downside, this is kind of a big downside, she admits she can't lie. She said if she ever has to, she knows people will see right through her. Now, that's good as an investment analyst. That's really good. But as a Survivor player, she hopes she could make that a positive because people will always know where they stand with her. But again, I worry about the Rule 1 problem there.
Well, and I'm curious how this plays out, because if she can't lie, so if someone's talking to her, well, they're not going to know whether she's lying or not, right? Because it's not like she's going to say, well, I can't. Is she going to say to them, I can't lie, so here's what I'm telling you?
I cannot tell a lie. I am,
And then, or is she like the character from that movie Knives Out, where every time she lies, she throws up? Like, is there something that happens, where you immediately know the person is lying? So I see the struggle if she says she can't lie. But I will say this. I feel like once you get out there and you start playing the game, you are surprised at how quickly things shift for you. I remember the first lie I told, and boy, did I feel awful. Like when I said it and it came out of my mouth, I was like, that does not feel good. But you do it because you have to. And so I'm wondering if she's just going to realize in that moment, like I'm in this now, and this is what's happening. So I'm just going to have to do these things. So, and I don't know, we'll see how that shakes out for her. But I feel like if she's interested in a relationship with Brandon, which I think reading into her press interviews that's who she was gravitating towards. So we've got a Brandon, Emily, Hannah thing maybe happening. I don't know.
Yeah. Now I do have one more worry, and that's that she said she directly shows personality traits like being intense, aggressive, and uptight. And she sounds negative. But she said she repeated it again, she could be a lot in the intensity and the stress she brings, especially in an overwhelming moment. Survivor's an overwhelming moment. And
Yeah.
wears her emotions on her face. Again, going back to the can't lie part. She hopes people will get to know her more deeply, but I really worry about all this.
Yeah, she might be a little too intense.
Yeah, at first I had some really great feelings about her. I had penciled her in as a possible winner pick, but I'm now worried she could be one of the first to go if people go by first impressions.
Yeah, I mean, that's the same type of concern I have with D. Those first couple of days, if you try to take control too quickly, and if you try to really tell people what to do and how to do it, and if she's unable to lie, that means she's just going to be brutally honest potentially, right? And so it
Or
could
get caught lying, which neither one is great.
Right. And so I just feel like that's going to put her in a potentially tough spot. Just looking at the people who are also on her tribe and the personalities there, you don't have anyone else that's necessarily bringing that to the table. She's that person in this tribe. And so that might end up not working well for her to form those bonds. Maybe it will. Maybe she'll be able to tuck that aside, as I already said with Brandon. But it all depends on how Brandon reads her, because Brandon's already gravitating towards Caleb. So it'll be an interesting dynamic to watch play out.
Definitely. All right. Also on Lulu is Hannah. Now she is from Connecticut and now in Maryland. She is a therapist. She is proud, and should be, of getting sober when she was 20 years old. She believes that she can read the room or the island, pick up cues, lie low when she needs to, be cutthroat when the time comes. She was a Big Brother fan first and then started binging Survivor like a year and a half before going out there. But even in that short time, she has already seen the light and said that Advantage Palooza sucks and they should boil it back down to some idols maybe, and that's it. Hallelujah.
Thank you.
Hallelujah.
Thank you, Hannah. Thank you.
Yeah. So now she hopes that she can be seen as bubbly and non-threatening. She said she looks younger and can sound young. She has colorful tattoos, all of which she said are super impulsive with almost no meaning behind any of them, like a cartoon sloth. She hopes people will see her as someone they want to be around, who can bring some comedic relief. And she plans to let other people take the strategic reins at first and follow along until she comes out like a viper. I worry that people may see her and automatically think of Carolyn. But hopefully she will have enough time to differentiate herself.
Yeah, I didn't necessarily get that vibe from her. I could see the similarities, but I feel like it's not to that level.
Right.
And
I'm only talking visual, pretty much.
Yes, that is a very fair assessment. I like the approach that she's planning on taking, because she is trying to find that balancing act as well. This idea of the game being different in the beginning versus the end. And I like that she is aware of that. And we've heard other players speak to that too. And I think that will certainly benefit her, because again, the concerns that we had with Emily, maybe trying to take control too soon, I think she's going to have an easier time kind of formulating those relationships. And if it's Brandon, again, I'm just going to go back to it. She was like in love with this guy during pregame and was like, I don't want to ever have to vote him out, because I already want to be his buddy, and I already want to have that relationship with him. So when she sees him on the mat, if that's who she was discussing, then I think she's going to be incredibly happy. and that will bode well for her, because if he's interested in working with her,
Mm-hmm.
but I feel like Hannah's going to be safe in the beginning, just because she seems to have a good mindset about how she needs to necessarily approach those first few days of the game until they get to the merge.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We can move on next to Jay Maya. Now, I don't know fully if she'll go by, the full or just by Jay. I'm just calling her Jay for now.
Mm.
She is on Reba. She's 24 from San Francisco, now in LA. She's a singer who has become famous through like TikTok and other social media. She started really watching Survivor like 2 to 3 years ago. Wants to work with people that she naturally gets along with and strongly relates to. Looking at her tribe, I'm not off the top of my head sure who that will be.
Mm-hmm.
She believes she'll win because she's adaptable, but it does take more than just rule 3 to get there. And I worry about the way she wants to make bold decisions in the game, the way she has in life, because it's obviously been rewarded in real life, but we know it often isn't in Survivor.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the concern I really shared with her as well, that her life has worked out exceptionally well, right, with the decisions that she's made, because she was on one incredible path to go to law school and to Harvard, no less, and then she diverges and takes this other path and becomes successful doing that. So she's someone who knows how that feels and knows how to be successful. But I'm worried that she's going to take that. Sorry, my dogs. She's going to take that same type of approach, which might not work out, as you said, because this is Survivor. It's it's not real life, and so you can't approach it the way that you would, even though a lot of the things that she's probably dealt with don't feel like that should work out so well for people in both of those trajectories. So in her mind, she might just be thinking, well, this is going to work out for me too, because look at what I've been able to do thus far. I have some concerns with how she is going to take her real life experiences and turn it into a Survivor game, and then also formulate the connections that she needs for this tribe.
Yeah, and one interesting thing about her plan to make bold moves is she said she identifies with Marianne, who of course did not play that way. So it's interesting, to have that dichotomy there. Now, Jay also said that she wants to work with the women because of the trend we've seen in the last few seasons of young women going home very early. She correctly recognizes that it's due in large part to the 3-tribe structure and the perceived tribe strength as it pertains to challenges. So she wants to talk to the women and say, it's either us or them. So why don't we just band together, see how far we can make it as a crew, and then figure it out from there. I suspect Julie might be up for that for reasons we'll discuss in a bit. Maybe D. I don't know, but of course they need to get at least one guy. Maybe they can get Austin or Drew. And now that I think more about it, I forgot that in my notes I said I suspect Julie might be up for it, but then I changed my mind later. So I actually think Julie. Oh, no, I did change it. I just missed the not in my notes. Sorry. I suspect Julie might not be up for that.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think that this is a group of individuals that are going to be too keen on that type of separation, and it's women versus the men. I do think that you have people on this tribe that have very different backgrounds and different focuses and different things that they want to get from this. And there's someone else on her tribe, Sifu, who is also someone who is like very like has created this incredible world for himself. And I am worried that she's got a strong personality. He has a strong personality. You've got Julie, who like restarted her life and became a lawyer. I mean, these are people that have like done some incredible things. And I don't think that they're going to want to parse it down to to that level where it's going to be so simplistic. Right. I think it's going to be more about who this person is versus the actual, male female type of of division. And so I don't think that that's going to work for her in this particular group of people.
Yeah. Now, mind you, and I don't know if this is the reason she's thinking it or not. If I were coming into Survivor and I felt that I would be viewed as a weaker challenge competitor, I would do something like this to try, obviously, to take it off of me.
Right.
And so, looking at her, she obviously, doesn't have the muscles of a Sifu.
Right.
But so maybe that's part of the reason. We'll see. Another thing that will be interesting, she is a pun champion. Brando is a big pun guy. So if they make the merge, maybe they'll
This is
have a
what I'm
pun off.
saying. Where are these like these strange connections between people? Something like puns. What? Pokemon was another one. There's two huge Pokemon fans and very, very interesting connections here that are coming up.
Yes.
Like puns.
Yes.
How can you be a pun champion? I'm fascinated.
I mean, there's a contest for everything, I guess.
I guess. All right.
All right. We can move on to Jake. He is on Bellow. He is 26 from Massachusetts, an attorney who just passed the bar. Now, he identifies with Chris Daugherty because he feels that he can bullshit like Chris, which is a quality I admire. And it's possible I may have used when I was working. It's possible that people may have called me the champion bullshitter, as a matter of fact. He added that you have to be a good bullshitter because people have to believe you. You don't have to be 100% honest at Final Tribal Council if you get there. And he wants to bring lying back to that part of the game. I am here for it if you can make it, Jake.
I love Jake. That's why I'm wearing this t-shirt.
Oh,
maybe
yes.
Maybe swearing will help. I appreciate that so much that he's looking at this that philosophical, I'm saying the word incorrectly, philosophical idea that if you swear, people will trust you more. I've never heard of such a thing, but I was like,
I think it was, he said it was a psychological fact that they've done.
That's what it is.
Studies that the more people swear, the more others think they're being honest. If that's the case, when I used to work, people must have thought I was the most honest man alive.
This is why this is why I have this shirt. I'm like, this is fascinating. So I really do appreciate the approach that he's taking. And also I will say he's another one whose voice just threw me. It didn't seem to match what I expected. And then I heard him speak and I love everything about him, in addition to the fact that he is an ADA. So thank you so much for that. He's in the same profession that I'm in. So I can definitely get behind that too. But
although he won't tell people that. He's going to tell people he's a public defender. Because people don't like ADAs,
I know, right? We're the bad guys, I guess, which is unfortunately sad. But I think that any approach that he's going to take to his profession, I don't think is going to hurt him at all because of the way that he does present himself. He was in theater, so he's obviously very good at acting, and he's also very good at just speaking in a more difficult sense, right? If on the spot, I need to come up with something right now when you're in court and you need to talk to a judge.
Bullshitting. Yes.
Bullshitting. Yes. It can certainly be bullshitting. So but it's not always bullshitting. Just be mindful of that. So I really do think that he's going to bring a lot of things to the table. And whether he goes with I'm a public defender or I'm an ADA, I don't think it's going to matter. I really don't think that that's going to have any effect, because of the way that he presents himself is what is really going to control that component of all of that for him.
Yeah. Now he's an ADA like you, but other areas he reminded me of me, besides the bullshitting and liking Chris Daugherty. He said,
I bullshit.
Huh?
I said, I bullshit. You were like, besides the bullshitting.
Well, that's me. That's me. I would never say you do that. He said the first thing that people would realize about him is that he's loud. No one's ever said that about me. And he said that, a lot of people look at him and think he's a beer guy, but he likes drinks with fruit. And yeah, that's me too. Or at least the sweet ones. So he also, as we said, talked about the swearing. And I do have to say, that's effing brilliant.
I love it.
Now he has gotten some great pregame vibes from Hannah. I think you may have mentioned that. Oh no, has not gotten. Sorry, has not.
Not.
Not. See, I keep missing the knots. I'm blaming the cold medicine I'm on.
Okay.
Cold medicine side effects may miss not in your notes.
Mm.
But they won't be starting on the same tribe. However, if she noticed that he hasn't been smiling much, we'll see how that goes if anyone else notices it too. He is getting good vibes from Caleb, and they are on the same tribe.
Mm-hmm.
But he also recognized Caleb is doing it to everyone, so that should be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It may be based on what we've said already. These three guys on this tribe may hit it off immediately.
And that's kind of the sense I'm getting as well, because their personalities are all ones that seem to be uh, like very strong personalities, but they're different type of personalities
Mm-hmm.
at the same time. So I am feeling like now wait, he's on with Jake is on Bello, right?
Yes.
Yes, he's on Bello. He's not with Caleb.
He's not. Oh God. See, cold medicine. I'm gonna blame the
Yeah,
cold
no,
medicine.
he's not. So he's got Brando and he's got Bruce, but I think that he and Bruce can certainly connect.
You're right.
But
I mean,
I feel,
you knew you were right.
I see. I'm trying here. I'm trying
Yeah.
to keep it all straight. But I do feel like anywhere he ends up, oh my gosh, look at that.
Jessica,
Thank
you're right.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. I truly think though that wherever Jake ends up with, I personally feel he's going to give good vibes and people will
Yes.
want to gravitate towards him. He's going to be fun loving, and this is why I feel like it doesn't matter what he says his profession is going to be. His personality is going to win the day.
Right.
So I just really feel like regardless of who he's with, I think it's going to work out well for him.
Yes. Yes. All right. So I will try not to miss any more knots going forward and make any more tribe mistakes. But again, cold medicine and lack of sleep. That's totally what I'm going with here.
That's fine. That is absolutely fine.
Yes. All right. Next up is Julie. She is on Reba. She is 49, which makes her the oldest. From Tennessee, she's an estate attorney. She went to, as you mentioned earlier, she went to law school later in life, shortly after she divorced and became a single mom with 2 middle school kids. I'm a bit worried about Julie.
Yeah?
Not just because she's the oldest woman, but because she doesn't seem to recognize that being the oldest woman often automatically makes people categorize her as a weak link. So you know how I mentioned earlier that I thought Jay might be using that because she thinks she'll be seen that way? I don't think Julie recognizes she'll be seen that way. In her interview, she repeatedly brought up that she wants to push the idea that they should stay strong so they don't go to tribal council. And she wants to tell them, don't cut the strong players. And, so first of all, that immediately puts her, as we said, at odds with Jay because Jay wants the women to align. So I think there's going to be an issue there. And with that, now, so I just said she doesn't recognize it, but she does sort of recognize that she's a target because everyone else is so much younger than her, closer to her kid's age. And she's just been telling herself not to be annoying. But to me, it comes back to the whole weak link thing. It has it has less to do, I think, with annoying and the strength and the tribe strength thing.
Yeah.
She said she's been working hard not to be a weak link, but she also knows she can't compete with the 20-somethings.
Well, and I think that this is one of those circumstances where in those first couple of days, you have to pick a reason to vote somebody out. And we've discussed that a lot, that unfortunately sometimes it's just perception. And this is why those quiet pregame days are so significant, because you are formulating ideas about people based upon what you are seeing, and then you're actually getting to meet these individuals once you get on your tribe. And if they need to find a reason, that could be one. But I think that this is the Reba tribe. I'm having the most difficult time trying to figure out who's going to really mesh with who. And she might be in a good place if Maya just doesn't seem to fit with people. So I feel like Julie might have an easier time formulating those bonds, because she did talk about her kids, as you've already mentioned. She has children that are this age. She might be able to find a good way to connect with people on her tribe. And also we've got Drew, right? We have Drew that we're
Mhm.
trying to figure out who he's going to vibe with. And Drew might feel like he's the odd man out. She might feel like she's the odd woman out. And so the two of them might gravitate towards each other. It could work out really well for her. And also she mentioned she's done some really incredible, was it some, I don't know if it was CrossFit. There was something that she did I feel like she's been working towards being a physically strong player. So it might be a non-issue.
Yeah, again, it comes down to, what do we say? Perception is reality.
Yes, for sure.
And you automatically start, unfortunately, in this game with a strike against you if you're the oldest woman on the tribe.
Yes. Oh, 100% for sure.
And the thing is, if she goes in saying keep the tribe strong, we've said this before. Maybe let's say she does get one of the other women out. She gets Jay out. And well, okay, but then she's still been pushing keep the tribe strong. And if they lose again, they're going to look at her, especially if anything at all goes wrong. If you've got preconceived notions and anything at all goes wrong, then you're in trouble. So even if she's not the first out of her tribe, she could easily be the second out.
Yes, I can certainly agree with that sentiment.
And we've said that before. If you're not the strongest player on your tribe, don't push the weaker player should go idea.
Right.
Because eventually that line will get to you.
Well, so then maybe she'll like the J Maya approach. I don't know. This is possibly. One of those.
She could get out there and say, "Oh, that actually makes sense." Looking around at the other people.
But how do you cut like an Austin or a Sifu if you like need to win the challenges?
That's a very good question.
Right.
So yeah, Julie said she's been watching the show like it's her homework, which is good. She's pausing it and thinking about what she would do in various situations. I hope that helps her. But have I mentioned that I'm worried?
I think you did.
Yeah, her hot take isn't at all controversial on this podcast, but certainly would be with Jeff Probst. She said, I feel like there's pressure to take risks, but I'm like, I am taking risks. I'm on this show. But I think the best thing to do is to make it to the end. I don't agree that you have to take every risk that's thrown at you. So I don't think that makes me a weak player either. I think that makes me a strong player. I hope she's right, and I hope she goes far just for saying those words.
Yeah, thank you,
proved
Julie.
Jeff wrong.
We appreciate that approach.
Yes. All right. Well, now we can move to the man we've heard so much about, Caleb. He is 29 from Vancouver, Canada. He is in software sales, although he's done a bunch of other things leading up to this. Now, I don't know if Caleb will win, but he will certainly be one of the biggest characters this season for however long he stays. He's been scheming and plotting and following Rule 1 in real life for years now. Just he's figured things out and pushed along. The question is whether he can make that work on Survivor while he also plays the villain role.
Yeah. The thing with Caleb that is making me nervous for him is the amount of times, and I know you've already said it, he was mentioned during the pregame. Like he is clearly putting it all on display in pregame, and people have already made determinations about him, and it's rubbing a lot of people the wrong way. And I think that in the new era of Survivor, people are very aware of personalities and very aware of how that could be perceived and what effect it could have on the game. And if they think he's already playing them all right now, like he's smiling at everyone, so then I'm not significant and that person's not significant. He's just already playing the game. They might just say he's playing too hard, too soon, too fast. And that might not work out well for him. So this is one of those situations where it's fascinating to have heard so many people reference him specifically for what he's doing pregame.
Yeah, I worry about the same thing. And he even believes he'll be considered a threat because he's athletic, charismatic, etc. So he's another one who said he's going to hide in plain sight, but a little differently. He said he'll be Cody on the outside, Jesse on the inside. And, like you said, he's already started doing that in the pregame with some mixed results.
Yeah.
But lucky for him, it seems like the people who saw him on a positive light are on his tribe, and those who saw him
Mm.
on a negative light are not on his tribe.
And that is a very fair point because Brandon is like his number one fan.
Mhm.
But Brandon might also look at it and say, hey, you know what? I don't want this guy to be kept around because he's my winner pick. So he's going to be everybody's winner pick because everybody loves him. I want to vote the guy out. So maybe Brandon will flip the script and not want to work with him. So I mean, that's my hot
Yes.
take.
Yes. Now, one thing Caleb did was listening to a bunch of winner interviews on RHAP to get in the mind of the winner. That's good, but he should have followed the lead of a certain NASA engineering student who also listened to a bunch of Y Blank One podcasts to get in that mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's a good piece of advice.
Yeah, just saying. All right. We can go to and unfortunately, I did mostly reading, not listening. You did mostly listening. I don't know. Katurah?
Yes.
Okay.
You got it.
She is on Bello. She is 35, from St. Louis originally, now in Brooklyn, and she's a civil rights attorney, another attorney.
Yes.
There were several of her interview responses that I really liked. For example, she said she wants an alliance partner who has loyalty so unrelenting that it's illogical. Now, we know that won't happen, just as she knows that won't happen. But, shoot for the moon. What the heck? She also earned points with me for her response to Mike Bloom's question about whether she'd get in a day 2 advantage boat. She laughed and said, now I am damn well not getting in that boat. Absolutely not. I mean, I will fake an injury to not get on that boat. The only way that I'm willing to get on a boat is if it's deep enough into the game where I feel, quote, comfortable, because you can never be fully comfortable, but comfortable enough to where I know I can come back and lie, and either people will believe it or it wouldn't be the end of the world. I have a strong enough alliance and I could tell people what I got and they'd be fine with it. So I like her Rule 7 attitude of, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to put my game at risk for this.
Yeah, I agree, and I apologize. My dogs are like losing their mind right now, so it gets a little crazy around here.
The dogs must have liked Katurah too.
And I think she's fantastic. And can I just say she's got one of the best photos as well. So I just want to put that out into the universe. My terrible photo that is out in the universe of my introduction to here's Jessica Lewis, and I'm like eating corn. She's like,
should we take a picture of you now? Should I take a picture of you now?
That's so much better than what the whole world has seen. But I do think that she is someone who has a very strong sense of self, which will be great for her in the game. And I do appreciate the fact that she is, as you've already mentioned, this, she's very cognizant of what type or where I'm at in the game. Like, where are we in the game? And she's going to use that relative to making decisions about what she wants to do. She isn't just going to be like, I want all the advantages and I want everything right off the rip. She is going to be mindful of where she's at before she's making those decisions. Now, I know there's been a lot of discussions that the game moves fast and you have to move fast. And I think that's from the Breakfast Club too, right? Isn't it? The world moves fast. And if you don't move with
fast.
Yeah.
Is that the Breakfast
Club?
That's
Ferris.
No,
that's Ferris
Bueller's
Ferris
Day Bueller.
Anyway, I'm getting my 80s movies mixed up here. But I feel good about her, and I'm hoping that she's able to keep that vibe going while she's playing the game, because she really did make some really great points in all of her pregame press about her approach to the game. And it's not going to be about, this is the person I want to work with. It's more of this is how I'm going to make decisions, which I think she's very analytical. Clearly she is a lawyer. So I think that's how she's going to be approaching the game.
I used to work with a lot of lawyers, and I know you're a lawyer, but trust me, not all lawyers are very analytical.
She sounds like she is.
Yes,
so I will give that. I will give that to her.
I just don't want to say that all lawyers are. That's all I'm saying.
Just like we don't all bullshit, right?
Yes, exactly.
Thank you.
Yeah, I do. And they used to say that I was an engineer at law. So, anyway, based on what we saw from her, I think I'm going to enjoy her personality, her sense of humor, and I think her tribe mates are going to also.
Yes, I agree.
All right, we can go to Kelly. She is on Bello. She is 30, from New York, and a critical care nurse. Now, she started watching while working through the beginning of the pandemic, watched almost all the seasons in 2 years. I want to know which ones she didn't watch. Um, I like a lot of what I saw in Kelly's pregame press. She talked about how her job requires her to be adaptable in the face of constant chaos and change. Rule 3. She could be a chameleon and hang out with different types of people. Rule 5, and also 3 again. She said, I'm fully prepared to manipulate and blindside my way to final tribal, where I can get votes from my friends on the jury. Rule 1 in Appendix B. She also said, there's no reason to juggle 60 lies if it's not going to get you anywhere. Rule 2. Yes. And she again showed understanding of Appendix B by talking about how she will need to read the jury in terms of whether they'll likely vote emotionally or strategically, and then adjust her play accordingly, which very smart. I ran down that list quickly, but she checked a lot of the boxes, maybe more than anyone else in this cast.
She definitely did. And what I can appreciate is not only is she checking those boxes, she doesn't seem to have an overwhelming personality like we've seen with like a Caleb, where she's someone who people are immediately talking about and being mindful of and concerned. So I think she's going to have a very good ability to kind of play that middle area or play that almost, not she's not going to be front and center. She's not going to be someone that people are going to be focusing on right off the rip. And I think that she's going to do very well considering that. And then also everything that she's checking, as you said, those boxes for how she's going to be approaching this game.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Next up is Kendra, who is also on Bello.
There's lots of K names as well.
There are
so many K names.
Yeah, I hope someone doesn't try to abbreviate, by just writing a K on a parchment, be like, which one?
Oh my gosh. No, listen, you will get yelled at by Jeff Probst. I'll tell you that right now. Don't change anybody's names on those parchments because he will definitely be mad at you. Just saying.
Yeah. Now, she is 31 from Massachusetts and now in Colorado. She's a bartender. I have to admit, I did not get a lot from Kendra's pregame press. She hadn't watched Survivor in a while. And then the summer before this past one, she put on an episode and, just before bed and ended up staying up all night to complete the season. She talked a lot about adventure, but that's not really the game itself.
Yeah.
And I'm afraid she's going to find that out very quickly.
Yeah.
She wants to give off a vibe of being happy-go-lucky. I worry she'll be lucky to make it past the first Bello vote because I think most of the rest of her tribe mates are real gamers.
Yeah, and she's someone who was noticed for like the wrong reasons by so many people pregame. If there's one thing that you don't want to do pregame is stand out for particular something, and it's like I'm not going to say the pick me person, but it's like that thing that everyone goes, why are you separating yourselves when you don't need to? And multiple people mentioned escalator versus stairs, where they were at the like airport and everybody went up the escalator and she took the stairs. That's not a bad thing, but you're separating yourself for an unknown reason. And maybe there is a reason, but in that immediate moment, people are
She wanted to show that she could do the challenge, the stairs portion of the challenge.
And maybe that's what it was, but that's not what you want to be doing. And so I feel like she is someone much like Caleb, who is already being noticed for particular reasons. And so her pregame could end up working against her just because people are already questioning, like, why is she doing what she's doing? And then when she gets out onto the island and she's with her tribe, if she continues in that way, because it sounds like that's what her intentions are, she's going to be very much herself. And not that you need to put yourself in the box entirely, but sometimes you have to check certain parts of yourself. And if she doesn't want to do that, and if she just thinks this is an adventure and it's going to be fun and a good time, and not from a strategic standpoint to approach the game, she is going to find herself in a very, very tough spot, because there's not going to be anything that someone will learn about her on the island that they might not have already assumed about her over here. And once they come together, they might say, well, that was what I assumed, and that's what we're getting. And I don't want to play my game is not going to be any better by keeping her around.
Yep. What did your family tell you when you went out there? Put Jessica in a box.
Yes. Yes. And yes, people I work with were like, keep her in a box. So
Stop
yeah,
bullshitting.
there's something to be said about recognizing what parts of yourself you really
Mhm.
need to play up and what parts of yourself you need to step back from.
Yeah. All right, we can move on to Sabiyah, who is on Lulu. She's 28 from Georgia, now North Carolina, and she's a truck driver who used to be in the Marines. She
I
says,
love that she's a truck driver. Like
yes,
I'm so happy that we have all of these like I just love truck driver. I was like, thank you. This is lovely.
yes. She said Survivor is her favorite show. She's been watching it since the beginning when she was 5 or 6 years old. She feels like boot camp prepared her for the physical side of things, and Jeff doesn't really hold a candle to the drill instructors.
Love that.
Now, she's hoping that she could take a more alpha role than she's used to and get into a leadership position by getting allies, which is interesting because usually people on Survivor don't want to be the leader.
Yeah.
But she also says if she can't, she knows, quote, I can turn my beta up. I'm a woman. I know how to scratch somebody's ego. It's not hard.
I really appreciate the approach that she is taking so much. There's something about her, like she's almost like quietly reserved in a way, which I think is an underestimated quality to bring to Survivor, because you are going to have the ability to kind of sit back and listen more than but she does want to take a leadership role, but she's not saying that's what I'm going to do. She's going to do it if she needs to. So I appreciate so much about just the way that she presents herself and the way that she's mindful of all of those components of this game. And I think that where she's come from and what she's done, I mean, her training, her ability, she's probably going to do very well in the challenges. So she'll be a huge strength asset for the tribe. I'm feeling very good about her too. I just hope that she is able to, if needs be, step up with the personality if she has to. I mean, Caleb is on her tribe, and we've all heard about Caleb and what he's got going on.
And she liked him. She was one of the people who liked him pre-game.
Right. And so I'm hoping that that's a nice balance right there where, we've got the Jesse and Cody, thank you. I could see a C, where it was like those two like personalities were much different, but they connected very well. So maybe we'll have something similar here with the connection.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Next up is Sean, who is also on Lulu. He is 35 from New Jersey, now Utah. He is a school principal. And he has watched Survivor since the beginning and is a super fan who wants to play like Todd by creating strategic partnerships to leverage him further in the game. And then when someone no longer serves his gameplay needs, goodbye. He believes he'll be able to make and have those relationships to further himself in the game and then cut them. So basically rules 1, 5, and 4.
Yes, he is checking those boxes, but I have some concerns for Sean just with his ability to necessarily connect with the individuals who are in his Lulu tribe. There's just something about the makeup of this group that I feel like it might be a little more difficult for him to find a good footing to put into play all of those things that he is hoping to accomplish. I know that he's obviously a fan of the game, but he's also, again, dealing with individuals who have big personalities. We have Brandon, we have Caleb. We already know much about those two and how, what Brandon thinks of Caleb, and Sabiyah likes Caleb, and Hannah likes Brandon, and Emily likes Brandon. So it's kind of like, where does Sean fit into that?
Well, I mean, he said that he just finished his doctorate degree with his research being on human connection. So there you go. There's your connection.
There's a connection, but can he make the connection? That's will he be able to make that connection?
Right.
And that's what my biggest fear for him is that there's already relationships that have been formulated in some sense pre-game, and that he's going to come into this tribe and be kind of on the outs.
I mean, he thinks that his social skills will do it. He said he can read people's emotions, empathize with others, connect with anyone, make people feel comfortable with me. And so, he plans to have real connections and friends, but he knows the one true goal is to win. And he said, so we could be besties after I vote you out.
Love that.
Yeah. The question is, like you said, can he take theory and put it into practice?
Yes.
Now, Sean also has a correct hot take. He said there are too many hidden immunity idols now. And then also production giving people fake idols. Like, no. Thank you,
Thank
Sean.
you. Yeah, we appreciate that too, Sean.
Mm-hmm.
No more fake idols should be allowed.
And our final contestant is Sifu, whose, I guess, given name is Nicholas, but we're going by what he's using. That's why he's last but not least in the alphabetical order. He is on Reba. He is 30. He's from O'Fallon, Illinois. Now, most people have probably never heard of O'Fallon, Illinois, but I have because it's actually fairly close to me.
Nice.
He is a gym owner. He's been doing Tai Chi his whole life and martial arts since he was 6. He binged all 40 seasons during the pandemic, starting with Winners at War, which I thought was funny. Sifu thinks people will perceive him as a slight physical threat. Slight.
Okay.
Sifu, have you looked in a mirror?
Slight. You like own a gym. Come on. Slight.
I mean, at least one other player talked about the guy with the bulging muscles, and I'm pretty sure that was Sifu.
Yeah.
I think he also compared him to Russell, which is not a good thing. But,
gosh.
But, he needs to quickly understand what people think of him. But he wants to kind of promote more of a group idea thing where they all work together. And he also won't talk about some of his background because he doesn't want high expectations of what he can do. I thought that was funny. Like, I don't want to tell him I'm doing Tai Chi and then start falling off of things.
Right.
So I think that's good too. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
So I was kind of mixed on Sifu because he is someone who, I know we've already talked about Jay Maya, who has really kind of developed his own path in this world.
Mm-hmm.
He went from like working at Walmart to then owning a gym, and he's like a musician and he writes music and he's doing a lot of things. He's someone who's like kind of a self-made man, and it's almost like whatever I want to do, I'm going to do. And he does it, which is incredibly impressive. So that type of personality can be beneficial in a game such as this because you need to find your footing and you need to figure out what you're good at. And apparently he's very good at a lot of things. So I do think that he's going to be able to fit himself where he needs to fit, because that's what he seems to have done throughout his existence thus far, is figuring out what he's good at and doing it. Obviously the game does move quickly, and I think that he'll have to make these determinations quickly, but his physical strength is certainly going to benefit him, and so the need to keep him around is going to be extreme. So I feel like he's going to be safe very early on in the game, and I think that his personality overall is like he's an enjoyable person when he presents himself, so I don't think that it's going to be perceived as a threat that this is happening or that he's here and that he's involved in this game. I think that he's going to be seen as an asset because personality is great, physical strength is great, and I think it's going to work out well for him because I think he's going to find that balance. But he also needs to make sure that he doesn't overdo, right? Because that's the other part of what I was worried about with some of the other individuals, like Emily. Like, are you going to try to take control? Are you going to like tell everybody what to do? And then that might rub people the wrong way, and they might not like that, and they might not appreciate that. So as long as he finds that balance, I think he should be in a good place.
Yeah. Now I'm rooting for Sifu because there are so few Survivor players who are near me. They're usually out on the East Coast or the West Coast. They forget about, the middle of the country. But I don't know. I think he'll stick around till right around the merge, and then we'll have to see if, his personality can overcome what people may think about him being a threat.
Right, for sure.
All right. So that is it for those players.
We made it.
We made it. Now, we have some other thoughts here. First, who we think the first out will be, who we think the winner will be. And then I want to talk a bit about the changes to the rules that I've made.
Okay.
So first out. And this was what I was checking. If you saw me looking at my phone, I was like, oh, I screwed up once with who's on what tribe. I better make sure before I go into this here.
I have a little cheat list over here, so I was keeping track of where we needed to be.
You use paper, I use screens. And
this is why I like paper.
I know. Yeah.
I'm sorry, my dogs are being so obnoxious.
Okay. My first out for Bello would be Kendra. For Lulu would be Emily. And for Reba would be Julie. I hate that I'm predicting 3 women.
Interesting.
But it's unfortunately the way the game has gone, as J. Maya noted. I would love for it to change, but until Survivor makes changes that cause that, I have to go with what I believe will happen.
Well, I think Kendra is the correct choice for Bello, excuse me. I'm changing it into a movie singing group here. Lulu, though, I'm very worried about Sean. So I'm choosing Sean as first out there. And then Reba, I'm actually going with J. Maya.
Okay.
As the first out. That's what my gut is telling me. So that's what I'm going to listen to my gut.
Yeah. All right. Now for the winner pick. The winner prediction. Not pick. I say pick, but I mean prediction, because it's not necessarily who we want. It's who we believe will. Sometimes they overlap. Now, I told you right off the bat, Austin was my winner prediction, but he was also the first one. That stuck around for a while. Jake was in the mix. Caleb was in the mix. But in the end, I settled on Kelly.
Really?
Yes.
Mike Bloom.
Oh, I didn't know Mike Bloom. I have not listened to other people's winner picks, so I'm
pretty sure that he chose. I'm pretty sure he chose Kelly as well.
So yes, the Bloom and Bloomberg picks.
I love this. So sorry, my dogs.
Yeah. But I like the mix on her tribe compared to her plan of how to play. And so, I was on board for Austin for most of the time I was researching, but I switched to Kelly near the end. Now, if Austin wins, I'm going to say it was the cold medicine that made me switch.
There you go.
But for now, it's Kelly.
You missed the knot.
Yes.
So here's my hot take on who I think is going to win, and I apologize right now because we all know how that works out for the person I choose. I was very sold on Brandon when I was going through all of the material and the pregame information. Brandon, I thought, was someone that I felt very strongly about. But in the end, I have to go with my boy Jake. I just have to, because
that's funny. We almost ended up with the
Oh, you were that close? Yeah. I mean, Jake was listening to him speak, and not just because he and I share the same profession, and I can appreciate what he's doing and where he comes from and all he's been through, but just the way that he presents himself and the theater background. And I think all of these things are going to work so well for him and his personality. I felt very, very good about Jake. So I am going with Jake. That is my pick. And Jake, gosh, I hope I don't wreck that for you.
Yes. All right. I also, like I mentioned, want to discuss some of the changes that were made. They're not big changes to the rules. I did put something in the intro, and this was something that we talked about last season, and I wanted to emphasize. Following the rules doesn't guarantee that you'll win, but it's kind of like on the highway. If you're a good driver, you follow the rules of the road. You have a better chance of making a drive without getting into an accident. But you can never guarantee that the guy on the road next to you is just going to suddenly swerve over and smash into you. And sometimes that happens on Survivor. So, yeah, these are like my rules are like the rules of the road for Survivor. In Rule 1, I had already had a number of examples of players who used a similar strategy to the one that Brian Heideck started with. And I think that Carson had some similar ideas with the spider web of relationships and information sharing that relied upon the other people not comparing notes. He told Mike Bloom in a post-game interview, my big thing was separating information. If Ratu and Soka never conjoined and talked about different stuff that I had told them, that was good. As long as I kept them not wanting to talk to each other, it would work that way. And that was what happened with Helen and Sarah versus Carolyn and Jam Jam. It was that way through his entire game. He put himself in the middle where people would think they're closer to him than he is with anyone else. So I added that as another example in the first rule. In the third rule, I added a brief note that Jam Jam said in the Survivor 44 finale that the key to Survivor is knowing what's going on and being aware of what's happening behind the scenes. And I also mentioned Jam Jam in Rule 6 as he provided a very brief summary of what it means to not be too much of a threat in the Survivor 44 Episode 10 Tribal Council, where that was one of those tribal councils where Jeff was going on, and I think Danny was going on and on about, oh, you got to be the best, you got to be, and
Yeah.
Jam Jam said, it's not good to be too great.
It's a great quote.
Yes. So had to add that in there. Going back to the fourth rule, I added something to emphasize that it's okay to have emotions and to show emotions, as we saw with Carolyn in Survivor 44, because that was one big thing. She always talked about that. Yes, I have these emotions, but the key is not being controlled by them to the point that it affects your game. And
right.
She did quite well in this regard, as people often dismissed her as emotional while she plotted against them.
Yes. I think that's a really great thing to have added.
And then finally, in Appendix A, I added some more emphasis that while players should vote out the week early, the focus has to be on keeping a cohesive alliance more than brute challenge strength. And yes. I just added a little bit more emphasis as I was reading through that. It's like, that is what we keep saying. There's weak and there's strong, but it's not just brute strength, it's alliance strength.
And I think that we just saw how much that can affect the entirety of the game with this last season in season 44.
Right.
100%.
Right. So people can, of course, find the rules by going to robhasawebsite.com /YX Lost Feed, cold medicine. And you can also go to that page and look at that. You could scroll down and get the rules in poster form.
Very colorful poster form, which we know that other players have ordered, like, people that might have just been on season 44. So there's that thing as well. Yes, you should definitely order.
Yes. And then you can scroll down, as I've done, to get the poster on a t-shirt. So you can have it with you at all times and show it off. It's a lot easier than carrying the poster around everywhere.
Yes, that is very fair.
Get 2 posters and wear them like a sandwich board, but t-shirts.
It's a great idea.
And then there's, of course, the checklist version of the t-shirt as well. So again, that is all at robhasawebsite.com /YXLostFeed.
Excellent.
Now, what about where people can find us?
Oh, yes. So nowadays, I'm still just on Twitter because I'm holding steadfast on Twitter. I'm at Jessica Lewis 89. David Bloomberg, on the other hand, is all over the map when it comes to social media. So much so that he has this neat little page that he just put up for you on his link tree.
Yes.
So you can find all of the incredible content that David Bloomberg puts out into the universe, including his at David Bloomberg Twitter account. But I think his TikToks have just really, I think they've been taken off for you, David. I think that's definitely been doing well for you. So you should definitely check out all of David Bloomberg's content on all of these lovely places that you can see on the screen.
Yes, you can get to the link tree at linktree/David Bloomberg with a dot before the EE. And, I've tried to, for a while there, we had to recite like 14 different addresses for me. On the video site, I'm at David Bloomberg TV. On most of the text, like Twitter and Blue Sky, I'm at David Bloomberg. But, Threads was a spinoff of Instagram, so they kept my name at David Bloomberg TV there. And yes, as you mentioned on the video sites, I'm putting out at least 3 to 4 videos per day, sometimes more. Obviously, right now, they're almost all Big Brother based. As we move into other seasons, including Survivor, there'll be a lot mixed in there as well. And so I have passed 5,000 subscribers or followers or whatever they're called. So, everybody else should join in that too. And, I still need some help on Instagram and YouTube. So head over to those. But besides that, also, we should remember that people can check out the RHAP patron program at robhasawebsite.com/patron. For the Big Brother season, patrons have been getting I think 5 shows a week, only available to patrons. And so, that's only going to expand when it comes to Survivor, I'm sure. So you can get there again through our YX Lost feed page, our one-stop shop, or like I said, go to robhasawebsite.com/patron.
Excellent.
Also make sure everyone is subscribed to all the reality TV RHAP podcasts by going to robhasawebsite.com/RHAPups feed. And you just select your podcast service of choice. Once Survivor starts, you'll not only get us, you'll get presumably Terran Stockwatch, Shannon Gus's Survivor International, the B&B, plus, of course, all the Big Brother shows that are still going on. So definitely, go there, make sure everything is coming streaming directly to you.
Yes, you definitely should. Can I do thank yous now? Are we
Yes.
there? Well, first, I just want to say thank you, David Bloomberg, for doing this. Considering I know that you were not feeling well, and we had to squeeze it in, considering my life and everything that's happening. But thank you to all the listeners for coming back to listen to Why Blank Lost content relative to Survivor. Thank you to Scott St. Pierre, who does all of the editing for not only our podcast, but for all of the RHAP content that you do here. Thank you to Will from America for the theme song that you do here at the beginning of the, I think, just audio podcast. I don't know if we've been able to finagle it into.
I'm working on it. We'll
yes.
see.
And is it still Hannah that is going to be doing all of the?
Well, we've got, I mean, the RHAP, the RHAP crew has expanded. So I want
Yes, so this is why I'm
to all of
concerned.
them.
Thank you to everyone from,
just
yes,
to make sure we don't miss anyone.
Yes, because
there's a lot now.
Yes. So thank you to everyone who helps put out all of the content with RHAP. It really is growing exponentially, and it's so great to see. Rob deserves this, and he's worked so hard. So thank you to everyone who works for him and puts all of this great content into the universe for everyone to enjoy. So thank you, David Bloomberg, for getting this done this morning, this lovely morning. And I know that you need to probably go take a nap at this point. So.
Yes, I do. I'm not usually a napper, but this may be a time where it may be one of those accidental ones where I'm trying to catch up on TV or something. But
yeah.
All right. And thank you very much, Jessica, for fitting this in. We won't go into all the details, but Jessica has a very busy schedule right now. So thank you. And as you said, thank you to all the viewers and listeners. And we will be right back here, just a few days after the Survivor premiere to tell you why the first person lost. And I will be back even sooner than that with Big Brother to tell you why. Well, frankly, it'll be a double eviction coming soon. So to tell you why a couple people lost. And we will see you soon. Thanks a lot.
Excellent.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.